Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Warships with Rear Admiral Jingles, where today, in the Tier 9 British battleship HMS Lion, finds himself in a Tier 10 Domination battle here on the Hotspot map. So, if you don't know StatsBloke, how can I best describe him? Well, he's a World of Warships streamer, streams on Twitch. I believe he's still a member of the Community Contributor Program. Apparently that is still actually a thing. And people often say, I often see the comments, you know, I can have a Jingles video running in the background. I don't even watch the gameplay. I just like listening to his voice. I find it very soothing. If that describes you right now, well, thanks for not watching, I guess. As long as you got the video running, I suppose that's all that matters. But do you ever stop to ask yourself the question, who does Jingles listen to for the same reasons? And, well, StatsBloke is the answer. I find his voice to be incredibly soothing and reassuring to listen to. And I'll often have Twitch running on the second monitor with StatsBloke just talking without paying any real attention to what's actually going on, because I'm busy on something on the main screen. So StatsBloke serves the same function for me that a lot of people watch my videos for. Or, you know, don't actually watch them, but just listen to them and have them running in the background. You get the idea. He's my Jingles, basically. So, this is a Tier 10 battle. He's in a Tier 9 battleship, so not top tier, not bottom tier. This is basically your standard matchmaking for a Tier 9. Sometimes you're the bug, sometimes you're the windscreen, and sometimes you sit somewhere in between. Aside from the fact that there's a submarine on each team, the matchmaking here is actually not bad. I mean, there's no carrier. There are only 2 destroyers, and there are a lot of battleships, but there are also a lot of cruisers for him to use his high-penetration, short-fuse armour-piercing shells on. Admittedly, using the armour-piercing ammunition is something that you don't see British battleships doing very often. I mean, Stats has the high explosive loaded now, and there's a couple of reasons for that. First, he's expecting to shoot at destroyers before having to shoot at anything else. And it's British battleship high explosive, which is very, very good. Probably a little too good. You'll often see British battleships just firing high explosive at absolutely everything. The thing is, it works. I mean, it's incredibly lazy, and yes, there are definitely going to be situations where you would absolutely be doing more damage and getting more kills if you were firing armour-piercing. But British battleship high explosive is good enough that it's pretty effective against everything. And that does kind of promote lazy gameplay, because in everything other than a British battleship, knowing what ammunition to fire when is an important part of the gameplay experience. You know, we're not talking about Tirpitz players here who just sail around firing high explosive at everything because they just don't understand that they'd have better results if they were firing armour-piercing at certain targets, and loading the armour-piercing would involve going to the trouble of pressing another button. And they finish the battle with 30,000 damage done. You can do that in a British battleship and still finish the battle with a lot of damage, because the high explosive shells are as good as they are. They do a lot of damage, and particularly at Tier 9 and 10, starting with HMS Lion here, they have an insane fire chance. The other thing that the Lion gets, which again is something that starts happening with British battleships here at Tier 9, and which the Tier 10 HMS Conqueror also enjoys, is really good stealth. It's one of the things that makes the Conqueror in particular such a difficult opponent to deal with at range, because they wait until you've fired, then they return fire, do a 12,000 damage salvo with their high explosive shells, and by the time you've reloaded, they've stealthed up again, and you can't return fire. The Lion gets that too. It just doesn't get as many 16-inch guns firing high explosive shells. It only has 9 compared to the Conqueror's 12. The final great thing about the Lion is that, like HMS Conqueror, it gets access to that specialised repair party Super Heal. The infamous, oh no, I've taken a lot of damage, I'll just press this button and print a new ship, Super Heal. Thanks to the Lion's small health pool and mediocre armour, and the fact that if you want to get all 9 of the guns firing, you do have to expose an uncomfortable amount of broadside to do so. Means that while the Lion is capable of dishing a lot of damage out, it's also very susceptible to taking a lot of damage in return, ironically enough, mostly from high explosive shells fired by other battleships, but heavy cruisers as well, and sustained high explosive barrages from light cruisers. But just take a look at his health bar. Look at how much that heal is going to give him back. Any other battleship in these circumstances would have used their first heal already, but not Stats, because that repair party is capable of healing back almost all of the damage that he's taken so far, and it's probably still got room to spare, which is why he's waiting to take more damage before he uses it for the first time. It really is capable of healing an insane amount of damage back. Anyway, back to the battle, which has been pretty slow so far. Stats' team are up. They've lost one ship to the enemy's two. Oh, in the second I open my big mouth. The team lose their Cleveland. Although it looks like things are starting to happen in the gap between the islands around Cap Circle Alpha. Remember, Stats' team... not remember, I haven't actually pointed it out yet, but take note of the fact that Stats' team are 200 points ahead with all three of the cap circles. There is absolutely no reason for them to push here. Yes. Juicy wants me to point out that the enemy team are in fact flipping Cap Circle Charlie. Yeah, I was getting to that, Juicy, but thanks for pointing it out. But yes, the enemy team are the ones who are behind. They're the ones that don't have any of the cap circles. They're the ones who need to push and potentially be the ones to make the mistakes. Oh, Stats has just activated his heal for the first time. Look at it go. He could have probably waited. It's still going for another few seconds. That would probably have been capable of restoring 30,000 hit points. As it was, it did 20,000 and basically completely negated the effect of the fire that he's suffering. And while that fire continued to burn, it's just providing a buffer zone of even more health that his next super heal can sort out. The enemy team, however, have gone a kill ahead. Stats' team have just lost an Iowa. They have flipped Cap Circle Charlie, and they're in the process of flipping Alpha. That Marlborough over there is currently the biggest threat to the team defending Alpha because he has crossfires. It is a Marlborough though. It's on with shitty little 14-inch guns, so he's spamming high explosive at everything too. But while the Marlborough is busy shooting into the ass of the Cherbourg and the Colombo, the enemy team have a whole bunch of other ships that have just finished flipping Alpha, charging around from the other side. This Marlborough needs to go down so Stats can turn around and assist the rest of his team, who are starting to crumble. They've just lost their Shimakaze. Stats taking a quick look to see how his teammates are holding up. The team have just lost their other destroyer, the Osterjotland. Okay, there goes the Marlborough. Oh, that's a Zeton and a Schlieffen. That Cherbourg's in a lot of trouble. Credit to the enemy team. This is a very effective and well-coordinated push. Stats' team now have none of the cap circles. The Cherbourg's about to eat a whole bunch of torpedoes. That Hipper is given an awful lot of broadside though, and Stats has loaded the 16-inch armor piercing. And after all that song and dance, you see that? Sometimes I wonder why I bother. I mean, I go to all the trouble of explaining why it's better to use armor piercing against broadsides, and then shit like that happens. Oh, the Cherbourg's going for it. Go on, my son. Have him. Yes. Yeah, that was totally worth it. Tier 8 cruiser just took out a Tier 10 battleship. I mean, he knew he was going to die anyway. So he took the Schlieffen with him. Unfortunately, the Schlieffen's secondaries had set fires that also killed the Christopher Colombo. On the other hand, that Hipper is in, well, he should be in a lot of trouble. He's caught between a Lion and a Yamato. And he's chasing the Yamato down, but the Yamato kind of has other problems because I don't know if you've noticed, there are only 4 ships left alive on Stats' team against 7 enemies. 7 enemies who control all 3 of the cap circles and now have a 200-point lead. Yeah, that one flipped around really quickly, didn't it? Come on, Stats, get the hipper. Oh, nice. The Richelieu's managed to get himself a kill. What is going on with these armour-piercing shells? You might have to switch back to the high explosive stats. Send those armour-piercing shells back to the manufacturer with a strongly worded letter of complaint. Nope, he's going to have one last go against the hipper. Okay, shots out. Notice how the hipper basically has no health left. Now he gets a citadel. There's a term for that in World of Warships. We call it a pitadel, a pity citadel. The ship's about to die, and that's when the game decides that your armour piercing is finally going to start working and gives you a citadel hit, just to piss you off for all the armour piercing shells that bounced when they should have penetrated earlier. Stats has had enough of this shit. He's gone back to the high explosive. At least that works. You can't blame him though, can you? I mean, you can kind of understand why British battleship players just spam so much high explosive. It's not necessarily that they're lazy, it's just that the armour piercing doesn't always work as advertised. Oh, there's the Amalfi. Hey, you know what? He's nothing if not a trier. Stats has cleared the barrels of the high explosive, which has done a good job. It's knocked out the Amalfi's torpedo tubes and set a fire, and now he's switching back to the armour piercing, hoping that the Amalfi is going to think, ooh, no, a battleship. Oh, he's trying to smoke up with a high-speed smoke, but he's still shooting. And that's a heavy cruiser, so he's not actually gaining any benefit from the high-speed smoke. Come on, Stats. Shots out. Ooh, there's the daring. And it wasn't a complete flat broadside against the Amalfi because he was starting to turn out, but still. 6 16-inch armour-piercing shells at what, in a ship this size, is effectively point-blank range into a mostly unangled heavy cruiser. One ricochet. Here come the daring torpedoes. There's not quite a big enough gap for him to thread the needle between the second set, but he dodged the first set, only took one from the second set, completely dodged the third set. I think some of those may have been Amalfi torpedoes. Amalfi must have used his damage control. Pretty sure the daring does not have 3 torpedo launchers. He's obviously gone back to the high explosive for this, and the super heal has triggered again. He was down to 28,000 health with a fire and a flood, getting shot at by at least 2 different enemy ships, and watch how much health he's going to have left. There it is, back up to 54,000. This super heal just chews up soft damage, damage caused by fires and floods. It basically heals back 100% of it. It'll do 75%, I think, of fire damage. Oh, those are Amalfi torpedoes. Yeah, he's turned around to get the torpedoes away from the other side. That was a set of 4. If it was the daring, it would have been a set of 5. And the daring's torpedoes don't reload that quickly. There's only 2 of them left. The enemy team are 500 points ahead. There's the daring short-range hydro, which means he's 3.5 kilometers away. And then suddenly a wild North Carolina enters the fight, and Stats is incredibly lucky to not eat a whole bunch of citadels there. He's able to turn an angle against the North Carolina while still chasing down that daring. He needs to... Wow, the daring's reversing? Really? Alright, on your head be it. 1 down.
Enemy destroyer sunk.
The Amalfi's still giving him a really juicy broadside to shoot at. He's switched back to the armour piercing. Although, actually, you know what? The North Carolina is also giving him a really juicy broadside to shoot at. The super heal goes active once more. There are more Amalfi torpedoes. Come on, reload these guns. We've got a North Carolina to kill. Thank you.
Enemy battleship sunk.
He doesn't really have time to worry about the cap circle right now. Not with a wild Musashi and its 18-inch armour piercing suddenly appearing in the distance. Once again, incredibly lucky to not eat the citadel and die. Come on, get the Amalfi. Get the Amalfi. It's not a flat broadside, but it's good enough, maybe. Finally! And there's the Kraken unleashed. But now he's in serious trouble. Well, there's good news and there's bad news. The good news is that Musashi is now the only enemy ship left. The bad news is he's a couple of 100 points ahead. Stats team still don't hold any of the caps, although he is now contesting the central cap. But, and this is a very big but, with his 32mm of outplating, he cannot bow tank the Musashi's 18.1-inch armour-piercing shells. Oh, here they come. Whoa. The way he can bow tank any other battleship's 18-inch or lower armor-piercing shells, because that ship's guns, which is why he's trying to knock the guns out rather than going for the kill here, can slice right through 32mm of bow plating as if they weren't there, and citadel you from the front. So he's desperately trying to stay alive long enough to get the ram, and, oh well, never mind. It was a brave effort. Now they just have to hope that that Musashi is a complete idiot and starts trying to win harder, because he's 500 points ahead with all 3 of the caps and less than 5 minutes of the game remaining. And you'd have to be a complete idiot in a battleship to go hunting a submarine under these kind of circumstances, because you're playing directly into the submarine's hands, and the Musashi is not a complete idiot. He knows he's about to win, probably in less than a minute, with 3 cap circles under his control and this much of a points lead, and he's not going hunting the submarine. He's just taking the points victory and staying alive. The sub's giving it the good old college try, of course, but while the Musashi is definitely not the fastest battleship in the game, it's definitely fast enough to stay away from a U-2501, even travelling at maximum speed on the surface, and the U-2501's torpedoes. And so the enemy team reached 1,000 points, and despite tanking more than 2 million damage in a Tier 9 battleship in a Tier 10 battle, scoring 5 kills, a devastating strike, and the Confederate award, that is unfortunately a loss for StatsBloke. Never mind, old man, it was a valiant effort and almost a victorious turnaround. If you'd just been able to survive long enough to smash that Musashi, it would have been a very, very different result. Unfortunately, the Musashi sadly was capable of doing something extremely rare in World of Warships, thinking and breathing at the same time. So it was just not to be. Nevertheless, thank you for sending that one in. Very entertaining to watch, and I hope everybody else enjoyed it, because that is it for today. As always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.